Hey, Joesph.
Hey, Joesph.
Hi.
Dude, it's great to meet you, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Great to be here, and thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. Like you interacted with, I think it was Matt Walsh's tweet, and you just had a really
69.
smart comment about it. We talked about your comment on our Versus show, like not knowing, and then I saw you're following me. I think I followed you, or I was. I don't know. Anyways, we connected, and I don't know. You just have really good insight. I think I mean, I don't know much about you personally. I think you're a normal sexual.
Yeah, I'm an old sexual. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You're just a normal, regular dude with your takes are very like just rooted in common sense. And I love following you on social media and learning about your career. I mean, amazing. You want to talk before we talk about ICK, your website, unbelievable. You have worked with some amazing people. I'm going to share your website's out of date. That's the only thing I'm going to say. Is it's joesph.com. But tell us your early career here.
I started in Texas back in the 90s. And you know, the funny thing is, I remember seeing, I was a big film nerd, and I remember seeing Film Threat in, the bookstores, the magazine, and all that stuff. And, I bought a couple issues back then. And, I was just trying to figure out how to break into movies, because that's what I really wanted to do. But remember, this is before the internet, this is before cell phones, this is before Google, before any of that stuff. So the entire idea of going from Texas into movies was like just completely impossible. It was like a complete fantasy. I went to NYU Film School, but I really couldn't afford it. I could afford about a year of it, and I had to drop out. So I did what I thought was the most pragmatic thing to do. Was like, I'd heard stories about Robert Rodriguez back then making a film for $10,000, but he had to sell his body to do it. So
Yeah.
I wasn't really willing to go into like someplace for 6 months, and there's no way I was going to raise $10,000, but I could raise $2,500 with my mom's Discover card, and write a bunch of things. And I made a music video. I made it for like $2,500. And, I went around New York saying, hire me. I'm Joesph Kahn. I have this video. And every record company turned me down. I was back in Texas. I was in $30,000 debt. I had $2,500 on my mom's credit card. My mom's a waitress, by the way. We cannot afford to do this. So I thought I was really screwed. So I went and started working in movie theaters and odd jobs. Like I was an auditor at a grocery store. Like, you go after the close and you count all the cans and stuff. Like, it was awful work. But eventually I saved up $500, opened up a business account, read a bunch of books, and went around Texas offering my wares as a music video director. And eventually I got some gangster rappers to give me some money. And before I knew it, within a year, I was like the gangster rap guy. And you know about gangster rap. And worked my way up through there. It was basically like, like when Koreans open up like alcohol convenience stores in the middle of the hood. I was doing that with filmmaking. So,
how'd you get to like work with Taylor Swift and Jennifer Lopez on your website?
Well, it happened, I think it happened pretty fast. I think I started my first video in 93, and then I moved to LA in 95. And then within 2 years, I was doing like $1 million videos. But it was like really weird because I never was the guy that like you as a director, you're supposed to like isolate and become like the rap director, this director, whatever you're supposed to know for that. And I was just this jack of all trades, just trying to find different things. And the funny thing, my career was always different because most directors would like be like the A-list guy. And I was always like the B guy. Like I would be the second choice of every video, but I always felt like if I got that video, I'd try to make their best video ever. So I was like the second choice of everybody's thing. But I just started assembling these videos over a course of like 30 years. And here's the thing, after 35 years, everybody thinks, oh, his reel is amazing and all this stuff. But think about it, maybe about 10, 20 videos of mine, but that's maybe one good video a year. The rest of the year, you're like just slaving away, just trying to make anything, So it's like, my career is definitely like timed, it's timed. It's like you're just trying to do as much stuff as possible. And then every once in a while, you get to make that hit video, but it's definitely a story of persistence.
And I know you made other films. I really want to show the trailer.
Sure.
Because our producer, Atomic Laurie, saw the trailer. She's like, I'm renting that movie to watch on Halloween. And there's I obviously I saw it. I'm telling you, there is more to this horror film. It's so unique. So I'm gonna share the trailer with everyone here. We're probably gonna get hit for music. You got great music for the trailer, by the way.
I mean,
And
we
the
have,
movie.
it's our, we have the rights to the thing, so it's like they should be allowed.
Well, we'll get hit, but I don't care. I want check out this trailer. We're gonna watch it together.
It holds 10 songs. I put all our favorites on it.
Promise me you'll take me with you to the NFL, to a giant mansion with a giant pool that has a fat hot tub that's connected to the giant pool, so I can swim from hot to cold whenever I want.
Yes. I love you, Stacy. Just takes a second.
Did you see Charlie's TikTok about how the egg is pure gluten?
What's gluten? The egg is just frankenfood GMO set free from Monsanto lab. That's why I only eat organic.
Mr. Wallace, why aren't we talking about the egg?
Okay, Grace. Let's talk about the egg.
After decades in stasis, the intracellular kinoplasm known as ICK has reached its kinetic state. Barricade your doors and your windows. Stop up your sinks and your drains. Again, do not go outside.
Our kids can still go to prom tomorrow, right?
Yeah, you should definitely cancel prom.
False flag! Crisis actor! Grace, I need to tell you something. I might be your dad.
Shit!
Next joint is for all the lovers out there. This is the song your parents conceived you to. Maybe the rubber broke. Maybe there was no rubber. Ick is harmless. Ick sees our value. We've chose. For those it does not value, it consumes.
Arm yourselves, whatever you can carry. Get ready for a fight! Come on.
You could have just opened it. I mean, that was super dramatic and all, but now I have to crawl over broken glass.
Dude, this is okay. I have to know. I mean, the story is, first of all, it starts out like almost like a teen coming of age comedy, kind of fun teen movie. It slowly turns horror, comedy horror. And what's weird is it's not like a monster shows up. It's there, evolving, and people react to it differently. I feel for this film, you were saying more. It's not a simple monster movie. There is way more to it. And I feel like you skewer both sides of the political spectrum equally. And I mean, no one is safe from criticism or jokes. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. I mean, the ick could be described as something else. People react to the ick differently. It's this almost like starts as a weed that's like, it's in the way, but whatever. And then gets worse. Is this what you were thinking when you made the film? Like,
yeah, I mean, I wanted to, I mean, let's start from the beginning. I wanted to make kind of a throwback thing to the Amblin films that I loved as a kid, but you can't do that as a 1-to-1 ratio. It doesn't translate. Because if you ever see some of these kids today when they watch those movies, they think they're too slow, or right. It's like you've got to alter it. And there's a lot of differences between 80s and 2020s culture,
Right.
But one of the things I was thinking is like, all those monster movies in the past were predicated on one idea. It's like, what if a monster came to your town? What would happen, right? And so King Kong would come in and blast things away. Godzilla would come in, like even the Blob, they could be metaphors for communism or whatever you wanted to be back then. But essentially the whole thing was, what if they came to your town? Well, I think in the modern day, we know what happens when they come to your town. We've seen the monster, whether it's COVID or 9/11 or whatever. People essentially freak out, they get impacted. But look at 9/11. 2 weeks later, everything went back on. people were joking about it and then debating about it, and then couldn't even agree on why it was there or who did it. And to this day, I mean, I think, like, for instance, the voters of New York today, like, the vast majority of them don't even remember 9/11.
Yeah.
So it's the monster. When they come, we ignore it. And the funny thing is, I think one of the biggest criticisms I have about this movie is that people say, well, people would never react as they do in this movie, where you would just ignore the monster. I'm like, really? I think that's probably one of the most realistic things about the movie.
It is. It really is. Like, while it is kind of like, and it's super fast paced. I mean, that first 10 minutes of the movie is it's insane the way it moves. It's so quick in its storytelling. Brandon Routh, I think this is the best thing he's done.
Wow.
He is so good in the film. Like, he is underutilized. I mean, in other movies, unbelievable. He's so good. And you're right. Like, crazy, horrible things happen in the world, and life moves on. And it deals with that.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm not being super judgmental about it, because part of it might be a survival instinct, frankly.
Right.
Can you really wallow and worry about things, or do you have to move? Does life move on, or is it ignorance? I mean, to me, like, when I make a movie, I'm not trying to give you answers. I'm just throwing questions in the air. Like, you should not be asking me for answers. I'm a filmmaker. What do I know?
Yeah, no. Hollywood used to be like that. They used to, like, say, here's something to think about. Now they kind of push agendas, I feel.
Yeah, and I think, people want me to give answers, and I keep saying, please don't ask me for answers. That's not my function. I'm not an expert on any of this stuff. What I can do is make some funny jokes and throw some questions in the air and have some fun looking at it. But I don't know when it turned into Joesph has to be the sage of everything. Like, dude, I never asked for that,
Well, that's the thing, is when you ask, when your audience is asking questions, that means they're engaged in your film. That they're just not passively watching, but they're thinking about what you're bringing, the themes and the questions you're bringing about. The question I have to ask you is, how did you transition from music videos to film, and who is your casting director? Because you're getting some big names in your movies.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, okay, the first part of it, how did I transition from movies to music videos to movies? Well, I transitioned years ago on a movie called Torque. And it bombed. I don't know if it really bombed. That's the reputation. At the end of the day, that whole weird residual structure that they give when a movie does. And I know directors that have directed movies and they get nothing. Torch keeps giving me checks, so I know somehow in that Warner Brothers system that thing is profitable. Otherwise, I wouldn't see a dime off it. But at the time when it came out, so what I did is I made like this sort of piss take of the Fast and Furious. And people thought I was making a serious movie, Like, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I have this scene where there's like a person's in front of a Pepsi sign, another person's in front of Mountain Dew sign, they start fighting. Well, that's obviously a joke, but people thought like Pepsi and Mountain Dew are like actually selling stuff. Anyways, what ended up happening is it tanked my career in movies. And when you make one film in Hollywood, they put you in what's called director jail, Mm-hmm. So I've been in director jail for essentially 25 years now. So, but what the great thing about Torque is that I went through the process of making a big Hollywood movie, and I got to reverse engineer it. I saw how they structured it. I saw how they, scheduled it. I saw how they hired things. I saw how the post-production process happened. So I just took all that information. I started making my own independent movies using that particular process. Because, like, as much as they tell you in film school how you make movies, they really don't know. But film school doesn't know anything about like how these movies are made. And even as a video director, because I'd done hundreds of videos before I did Torque, like, that's not making movies, It's like movies are a completely different thing. Like, when you work with an artist, they're trusting you. When you work with an actor, they don't want to do the things you want to do, and you have to convince them, and then they have agents that call you up and managers, and this whole weird political process I had no idea about. But I learned how to do that, and so that's when I started funding my movies myself. I would actually just put my own money into it, and every one of my movies have been a combination of my cash and some investors, and this is no different. I originally wrote this one to be done at Netflix or a studio, and I was like, give me like $50 to $100 million, and I can do this movie. But COVID happened, But this was written before COVID, by the way, and I said, I can't wait around. I can't wait for Hollywood to put its act together. So I raised the money myself. I got $5 million and made this movie. Yeah.
Wow. Well, let me just say, even though it was written before COVID, watching it, it very much feels like it's commenting on two ends of the spectrum on how people saw COVID. That could just be me reading into it, but I really love your take. It's not preachy at all, but a lot of people get made fun of for stupid stuff, and deservedly so in the movie. It's funny, so just amazing.
Well, we threw in a couple of COVID jokes. I mean, obviously, because it's the elephant in the room that when you make a movie like this, but it was not written as a COVID allegory in the beginning.
Right.
It's an overall monster. There could be 9/11, could be anything, you know?
We have a ton of questions for you, and
Oh, yeah.
I would not be doing my job if I didn't remind people you did that Power Rangers video that went viral.
I did.
That I remember watching that. People went, I'm like, I'm not a fan of Power Rangers. I saw what you did, and I want to see that now. What can you tell a little bit about that? And then we'll go to questions from our audience.
I did that in an angry period of my life, you know, because I've been kicked out of Hollywood for about 15, 20 years. I did another movie called Detention, and it was another movie I thought was going to do really well, but it was my own personal money. It's now a cult movie. Like, people really love it or they really hate it, which is pretty much the standard for all my movies at this point, you know. But I do make my movies very earnestly. I believe in what I'm doing, and I'm truly trying to entertain myself on, you know, on a first level, you know. And I was just angry that people were like, again, saying, "Oh, he sucks. He's a terrible director." And more importantly, it wasn't necessarily the fans of movies. I don't really blame audiences. You either connect with them or you don't. It was the industry that was like, "Fuck you, Joesph. You can't be part of this this sandbox that we have." So I said, "Okay, well, I see what you guys are doing. You're making these IPs and turning them into, like, you know, big movies. I'm going to take an IP that you guys are making and that I know you're about to make, and I'm going to be the Osama bin Laden and take that IP and crash it into a plane, crash it into a building." Like, I literally went into sabotage Hollywood and just sort of like do a terrorist strike. So I took some money and I made this short over 7 days, and it took about a year post to do it. And I released it on the internet. But I did it in a way that I know they couldn't do it. Like, they want violence, I'll give them violence. You know, they want sex, I'll give them sex. But I'm going to do it on a way that they can't do it. I'll make the impossible version. I'll do the NC-17 version that's so violent, so everything, that they can never, ever touch this thing. And and hopefully people will, like, love it, you know? And so it happened. Like, I released it, and within 24 hours, had 20 million hits. And then they actually called me to see if I wanted to do the Power Rangers movie, and I said no. You know, so.
It would have been great if you could do it on your terms. We have so many questions and comments. Fun with collecting. Torque was a lot of fun. Not a bomb in my book.
Thank you.
That's great. That's great. Lord Thoth, high octane, and Razorburn. I'm sold. And here we go. Comment here. Alan, if you could take over.
Yeah, AD Ellis, if you could expand one of your music videos into a full-length feature, what would it be?
I did a video for Muse called Knights of Sidonia. You have to check it out. It's kind of like this trauma level thing where it's like they're on Mars, but they're cowboys and they do kung fu and they're battling. But I shot it in Eastern Europe, so I decided to distinctly put Eastern European things into it, like little nesting dolls for no reason at all, and use old super technology like CDs, you know, even though they were already on the way out. That would be a really badass, fun version of it where I could just go buck wild. I would love to make that into a feature film.
All right, ADLS24, not to be hyperbolic, but you're very likely the most influential music video director of all time. What are the skills you learned on most from directing in that medium, and when it comes to features? So what do you bring? Would you learn from making all these videos that you brought to features?
The hardest part of music videos is that whenever you do a music video, the industry is so completely different. Like, the record industry is all about finding the new thing. If they even remotely sniff that it's like another video, they're like, don't do that. Like, because their specialty is what's the new. That's all they want. So they treat filmmaking from that perspective, where they want the thing, you know, 5 minutes in the future. And when I start hitting studio films, they want what's been already tested. They don't want to do the new thing. If there's a new thing, you got to get consensus with everyone. It's a whole different process. So if anything, I've learned through music videos, there is this interesting fine line between two forms of thinking about filmmaking. They're the people that want the new and the people that want the old. It's very hard to balance that too, you know? So in my past, on all my films, I've always just gone for the new. And I know that there's going to be people that want the past and kind of reject the new, whether it's the pacing or the editing or the concept or whatever. But I also believe that there are true film fans out there that are experimental, that do like the history of film, but also want to go someplace new. So I consciously decided to make that. I think what I've learned more than anything is that language is malleable. The film techniques keep changing. And I, as a filmmaker, whenever I make anything, have to decide who am I speaking to and what language am I speaking, you know? So up to this point, I've distinctly have made things for a very specific audience. In the future, I might tone it down and try to get more four quadrant, if you will, you know? But right now, because I'm in the independent space and I can do whatever I want, I'm doing whatever I want, you know?
Jason Delgado says, Ick is so much fun. I enjoyed reviewing it for FT. It's a fresh score, so that'll help you on Rotten Tomatoes.
Thank you. I really need that.
All right, Solomon Thornton. Greetings, Sir Joesph. I just looked up your movie, and it's listed as horror sci-fi, which is the best way to merge those two genres and keep the story feeling fresh.
Well, I will say it's really not horror sci-fi. It's more comedy horror sci-fi, and the comedy is really the predominant thing. And it's kind of a hard thing to market because when you say comedy, people think Naked Gun or, you know, they have a very specific idea of comedy. I'm tonally comedic, but I'm taking the emotions seriously, you know? So it's kind of a rom-com, then mixed in with the horror sci-fi elements. It's a hard thing to market. So as a film, it's kind of an easy thing to do because you're just writing a script and you're keeping it toned and you're trying to keep, you know, the serious part serious and the funny part's funny. But I will say that as filmmakers, guys, if you try to do what I'm doing, it's the hardest thing in the world to market because people want to place things in boxes and they're like, well, is this a comedy or is this horror? Is this sci-fi? And it's the film itself can exist, but the way it's sold is you just make it 10,000 times more difficult for yourself.
Did they used to tell you that you need to let people know that you just told a joke? And
Here's a good question.
all right, so question. This has good monster vibes like Tremors or The Blob. Are you a fan of monster movies? Fan of Godzilla by chance?
Yes, I love monster movies. That's what I started with. In fact, before I was even a filmmaker, before it even came into my mind, I remember as an elementary school student, like I'm talking about the early 80s, there were these orange books. They were like orange covers, and it was like King Kong would be on the cover and Godzilla would be on the cover. And I used to just look at those constantly because those movies weren't that scary. That's the thing. Like it was like the type of scary movies that like, you know, 8-year-olds could watch and stuff like that. And that's one of the things that I really want to do. I was like, where is this monster movie that's scary, but it's not scary enough that, like 10 or 12-year-olds or teenagers watch? Because the state of horror today is so gruesome. Like it's either Terrifier or super body horror or like super adult stuff like The Substance. And where's the starter horror? Where's the stuff that when I was a kid, the Gremlins and, you know, and things of that nature, even the Blob was great from the Chuck Russell version, but even that was a little scarier than I wanted to make in this movie. I genuinely wanted to make a movie that for like kids, you know, and adults. It's like a Pixar movie, you know, where it's the adults can get one thing out of it and the kids can get something else. And I really want to make that. And also, if you look at the monster movies, they're not really monster movies anymore, guys. I'm sorry, they're superhero movies because what do these do? They just punch each other. You know, they're just big, overgrown superheroes that eventually get into fights. And I didn't want to make a fighting movie. I generally want to make a horror movie where these things are chasing you. But how do you do that in a way that you don't disturb the minds of young kids and something that maybe a whole family can watch together? I mean, that was my innocent attempt at this.
Well,
you're of this age, but what did you think of Attack of the Killer Tomatoes?
I mean, it was fantastic. I mean, I loved all those, like everything that you could get on a little VHS box back in the day, just with a cool thing. I used to watch like crazy, you know, even if they weren't good, it was still like the mystery of getting into it, you know. And you didn't know what type of movie you were getting, because remember, like, it wasn't like a connected online world back then. You just took a chance on the poster, you know. So I wanted the ICK poster to look like that too. Like, you know what you're gonna get, but you know, go in there and get that mystery. That sort of pure discovery of filmmaking is part of what I made this movie for.
Yeah, and also there's a great Blob reference in the film.
Yeah,
I love it.
All right, Oliver Laveri Farag for $4.99. How did you reconcile that angry part of your life into making feature films? The new film looks really cool.
Okay, so I was in an angry state, but here I'm not an angry person. Okay, I generally try to keep things positive, and I think one of the most important things is to always register things from a positive point of view. Like, I don't really want to dwell on the negative side of filmmaking. You know, people can always go, "Woe is me," and you know, I got screwed, and people are making bad reviews about you or saying bad things. But that's life, guys. You know, not everyone's gonna like you. You know, and we're not all going to get the things that we want out of life. You know, I wanted to be Steven Spielberg. I'm not Steven Spielberg, but I'm Joesph Kahn now, you know? And ultimately, I think you just have to be honest with what you're trying to do, and whether it's small or big. Look, and here's the thing, some of my movies lose money and things like that. And not everything I do is successful, but as long as I'm having fun doing it and other people out there see the fun, that's more important than necessarily the critical whatever it is, you know. Like, it's just about sort of believing in your particular art and making sure that it's pure and it's good. And also, I feel like I'm not making negative stuff either, so I'm not wallowing in people getting ripped apart and all that weird stuff. I'm just not into. You know, I'm just trying to keep it simple and cool and positive, and hopefully entertaining for people. And that makes me happy.
Yeah, Nerd Far Away asks, "Hail, Mr. Kahn. I assume you're a fan of 80s and 90s music. Favorite band?"
Okay, so I am 100% an 80s kid. And I genuinely think the 80s were the most amazing time to grow up. You know?
Well, that was the birth of music videos, too.
It was. And that's how actually I learned how to speak English. Like, I was born in Korea, and then we lived in Italy for a while. And then I moved in like 79 to America. And I didn't really have a lot of friends, but I had films. So I learned how to speak through films. I think I basically have a California accent, even though I grew up in Texas, because, you know, that's the way it was. And I remember seeing MTV, and that was the way I was introduced to music. Like, my first song, rock and roll song I ever had was Joan Jett's I Love Rock and Roll. I saw that through a music video. And so I was just addicted to music videos and pop culture and Americana. And I really fell in love with the concept of America. It was like, it was truly a magical time. Like, it was pop culture dominant. And so my favorite 80s band, look, this will tell you where my mind was. It was everyone from Michael Jackson to Madonna to Metallica to industrial bands like Ministry and Nine Inch Nails. Like, I absorbed it all. I loved it all. I still to this day love it all. I don't love necessarily the pop culture now. I don't really understand mumble rap and all that stuff, you know, but that sort of pop explosion of the 80s, I still love.
It was magical. I'm also an 80s kid.
And the movies, come on. The summer of 82, you know, like, I mean, like, my childhood when I was 10 to 12 to 13, it was Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was Poltergeist. It was Conan the Barbarian. It was Blade Runner. It was Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. It was The Empire Strikes Back. It was Temple of Doom. It was Gremlins. It was Back to the Future. I mean, you cannot beat the childhood of the 80s. And plus having no phone, you know, no computer, you went around on your bikes, you know, the mystery of hooking up and hanging out with other kids, going off into the woods, you know, like, you know, going to your 7-Eleven playing Pac-Man. Like, what an insane childhood. That's why I think I'm so happy. It's like, because I had the best childhood.
Yeah. Very similar for me as well. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, MK Solid. Joesph, how do you feel about the downfall of the TRL days and the death of MTV?
I think I'm sad about the death of monoculture. And monoculture sounds negative, but it's what really kept us together as Americans, you know?
Yes.
When you're a child of the 80s, you really did believe in, like, heroes. You believed in the heroic nature of the United States. You believe in the heroic nature of the American people. You believe that everyone could become American. You just had to love America, give the flag allegiance, and you would all just get together and then celebrate this sort of unity of like pop culture. Like it was like this fusion. Pop culture is popular culture all come together. And then when I started doing my videos and I got my shot at it in the 90s, I started in a world of gangster rap and grunge, right? And I like those two things. I didn't really like gangster rap as much. I did like grunge, but like it was kind of very bifurcated. And then they started pitching me, because I became a successful gangster rap video director. They started pitching me like white artists. They said were like R&B artists. But I would look at these artists like Britney Spears and Backstreet Boys and go, they're not gangster rappers or like sex guys. They're like little pop stars. And so I started trying to make videos like the ones that I watched in the 80s. I was literally trying to make my own Michael Jacksons, my own George Michaels, and that type of. So that's when I did those videos. And then they all did really well on TRL. But that was a conscious decision by me to bring back the 80s into late 90s work. And I still do that. Like my last big artist I did was Taylor Swift, and that was still me trying to do my Michael Jackson videos through her. So I've always been a big proponent of the grand American pop culture moment, But now it's different because the audience is so split. The audience now and I see it in the record. I remember like I did a video for Cisco Thong Song, right? And I was like, okay, he's my Michael Jackson. And then I remember specifically saying he was going like, this is too pop and I've got to become more urban and ghetto after this, And then he set up the video really well. And it seemed like he was about to pop and become Michael Jackson. And then he purposely pulled himself back. And I see that happen a lot in the business, because people want to retain these little sort of separations. And I think that's so sad. And so now it's like, if you look at the world, it's just completely separate. Everyone has these little pockets of their own little worlds and stuff like that. And there's no sort of commonality. And that's sad because I'd rather celebrate what we have in common than what we have in different,
Yeah, well,
when I grew up, I was a new kid in a rich white neighborhood. And the thing that made friends for me was Star Wars.
Yeah.
We all had the Star Wars comic books, trading cards, everything. And that
was the thing. I was a huge comic book nerd. And so we may be different races from different cultures and everything. But once you got into Spider-Man is Spider-Man. And we all connected and we all went to comic book conventions and we'd all be different things. It was a big connector, And now it's so sad because now we try to split Spider-Man into 10 different genders and 10 different races. And it becomes more about, catering and dividing. And that's why TRL doesn't exist anymore. That's why MTV doesn't exist and all these things, because we are so focused on our differences. And that is so sad. We should be focusing as human beings, connecting with each other. And what do we have in common? That's what I care about.
And if you want more smart commentary like this, you should follow Joesph on social media. Your X account is on fire. And second only to Alan Ing. I would say my pal Al. He's also
mine is snarky.
Yes, a little snarky. Yeah. And here we go. JTPRX. You did Thong Song. You're awesome. Never for 37 months. And Pilgrim Media for 2. Do you always shoot with Blackmagic cameras?
I don't shoot with Blackmagic cameras a lot. I shoot them for second unit in certain shots and stuff like that. Here's the thing. Cameras don't matter at the end of the day. Some people are like, you got to shoot on film. You got to shoot on red. You got to shoot on that. That's not what filmmaking is. Filmmaking is not a camera. Filmmaking are ideas. Filmmaking for me, more important, is what's the blocking, what's the editing, what's the lighting, what are the things doing, and what are they emoting, And I feel like sometimes people use filmmaking grain as this sort of wall of separation where, it looks like a movie, therefore you must respect it as a movie. I think true cinema has nothing to do with that. It is just literally a series of emotions and visuals and sounds and ideas that go in your body and into your heart and into your brain. And the delivery system of whatever technique you're doing or whatever camera it is so unimportant. I mean, it is important. Trust me, I'm a technical freak on some levels, but I do know that that whether I shoot it on a Blackmagic camera or a red or a Alexa or film, that's not going to matter as much as what I'm actually shooting.
Wow. And I'll just say this. Next time you make a movie, please come to us to help let people know about it, because our audience is really dedicated to finding things that are off the mainstream beaten path. And on that note, I have 2 questions related we can wrap up with here. Alan, if you would.
American Remnant. This was already in theaters. Dang, where can I see it now?
And Oliver says,
is it available internationally?
Yeah.
Guys,
So
I know this sounds awful. I don't really know the state of distribution on it. I do know that it is out in pay-per-view. You can rent it, you can buy it, and stuff like that. It's not streaming in the United States. I think in England it's streaming on something over there. These salespeople are off doing their thing, and I don't know, but all I can do is just sort of let people be aware of it, and the chips fall where they may. It's a hard world to get any movie up because there's thousands and thousands of independent movies being made. So all I can do is just get my word out as to the distribution. I'm sure we'll get streaming at some point, and hopefully that's when it'll really connect with the audience it's meant for, because kids don't rent movies. They don't have the money for it. They don't have their parents' credit card. They just wait for it to get on some streaming station. And I suspect once it gets into the streaming world and the 13, 14, 15-year-olds finally see it, it will explode. But right until then, I'm just biding my time, just trying to get it out there and make sure that I don't get too many bad reviews from, some person that hates the speed of it or something,
Well, I love the speed of it. It is really for kids that are on TikTok will love this because the pace is, it moves. It's crazy. And also, this is a movie that will get discovered. When it hits streaming, people will, have you heard of this? The ICK? You got to see ICK. So I'm telling you, it's going to have a life once it gets there.
And by the way, not to scare anyone off, I think it'll be too fast for some people, but that doesn't mean if you're past a certain age, you won't be able to follow. I think there's plenty of people. I've been at film festivals where people in their 60s still love it. It's just a matter of how your brain is calibrated. Some people are just faster at processing information than others. Some people stay eternally young. Chris, I think you are.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be there. It's not going to be for everyone. If you don't like fast movies, don't waste your money. It's fast, but I don't think it's going to be negative for a lot of people. I think for the most part, I think young people will like it. I think a lot of mid people, I think people in their 40s will probably really dig the nostalgia of it, but I'm just saying it's fast on purpose because it's made specifically for an audience that does not engage with movies. And I'm just doing everything in my power to make sure that they understand that these things are out there and we're going to engage with you. And here you go. Experience a movie that you don't have to look at your phone. Pay attention for a second.
Yeah. I'm showing that it's currently playing on Amazon Prime and Fandango.
Yeah, and Apple, I believe, Apple too, as well. So, Joesph, I hope I can call you a friend of the show.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, and we'd love to have you back when you have another movie or something to talk about. Follow, and is your Twitter or your X, is it just Joesph Kahn?
Yes, it is me. There's another Joesph Kahn who is the editor of the New York Times. So I'm constantly getting these angry political messages from him.
That's great.
And I have to keep telling people I'm not the political guy. I'm the guy that makes rock emo monster movies. So, stop death threats.
Well, thank you so much, and really appreciate you coming on the show. Perfect movie for Halloween. Check out ICK, and Joesph, don't be a stranger. I'll talk to you on social media, and it was just a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
And happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Take care, Joesph. Later.
Bye.